couple of quick statements and updates here at the end of day 5 of our camp. So far, things are going smoothly for us. We are still not at a full 60 players here in Maryland, but we are gradually adding to our initial number in an incremental, piecemeal fashion as space and schedule allow. We're still in the process of finalizing accommodations for our second site. We're making a lot of really good progress there. But similar to our preparation here at Camden Yards, we're being very thorough and careful about setting that up to be as safe as possible, getting out ahead of planning so that we're not having to alter operations once they begin, and taking our time to get that right. So hopefully we'll be announcing that site soon and an open day for that site soon, which will allow us to have a full 60 players here in the area. But until then, we're not able to do so. We are still making active progress on signing the rest of our 2020 draft class, and I expect some news on that front soon. And lastly, just wanted to broadly address the topic of how the organization is handling any potential COVID-19 cases amongst our player pool at this time. We have a really elaborate testing setup that has been issued by the league, but we are also taking it above and beyond as an organization. We're being very thorough. Anyone who's around the players, around our closed environment here at Camden Yards is getting regular testing. And part of the nature of this testing is that there are going to be false positive readings. It can take some time to find out that they're false positives. And any individual who gets a positive, regardless if it ends up being a true positive or ultimately a false positive, may be out for some time. So given that fact, and the fact that also people may be away just waiting for their test results if there's some retesting that needs done, or a slight delay in the results coming in, or perhaps they have been asked to quarantine as part of a contact trace or anything like that going on. We feel that it's not our place to attempt to provide a play-by-play or minute-by-minute update on the status of such individuals. I think there's a lot that you're going to be able to infer as the season goes on with people coming and going and how long they're gone. But this is a private health matter. There will be players that will be out sick for other reasons over the course of this year, as is the case every year, and we don't get into too much detail there. And ultimately, we want to leave it up to the players to talk about the experience themselves, if they want to or not, whenever that experience resolves one way or another, even if it turns out they were a false positive or an asymptomatic case or whatever it may be. So that's the way we're handling it. I understand it's not perfect, but I think for all those reasons, it's the best approach, and it will give the players and the staff members the best measure of privacy and the luxury of time for their individual situation to play out. With that's all I got right now, and I'm happy to answer any questions I can.
Rocky Bacco, go ahead.
The guys that we haven't seen so far, is there any kind of timetable for you on how much longer that could take? I know you don't want to address guys specifically, but do you feel like the guys that have not been their first 5 days, and obviously there are a couple, that maybe it won't be much longer, or you just don't know?
Well, as I said at the top, we haven't even named our full 60. So there are currently players that have been informed they're in our plans but have not been added to the 60 pool. Again, the opening of our second site will be a big determinant in when that fleshes out. There's also some roster gaming reasons that we've waited on certain players over others that I've gotten into before. We're being very cautious about who we add and when we add them. There are currently players that have been informed they're on their way, or they're in the process of getting here. They will still have to go through intake. They'll still have to clear with our medical team. That can take days. So again, I recognize it's a little fuzzy and maybe frustrating at times that the information is not real precise, but it's just the way that it's the nature of this season and the way that we're sort of forced to approach it, that there will be some vagaries around the comings and goings of players, under these circumstances.
John Mioli, go ahead.
Mike, it's pretty clear based on the roster that you did announce and the positional groupings and what people have been doing while the workouts are open, who has been on the field and who hasn't. Do you think that the speculation as to why and the positives to go with that outweigh some of the drawbacks of what you're saying about publicizing test results?
Yeah, I don't think there are there's any perfect way or really appropriate way to perfectly handle a situation like this. We don't like to be cagey or withhold info, but again, this is a private medical matter, for these individual people. And, I don't think it's in anyone's best interest to get out in front of it, mislabel something, and, have to unwind that later for whatever reason. So recognizing that, clarity can take some time in these circumstances. There are other players that maybe they're coming here and there were circumstances locally from where they're coming from that is slowing their intake or slowing their leaving that area. There's just a lot going on here right now. And, I think eventually, things will become clear, but that's the way that our organization is approaching this. I think we're not the only one like that. And, ultimately the players are made available to media and public, at various times, and we'll leave it up to them to talk about whatever they want to talk about on this topic.
Dan Connolly.
Mike, just for a little bit of clarification on that and another question, but as far as in the future, when it comes to a COVID-19, injured list, or for lack of a better word, will you be telling us, who is on that or the numbers that will be on that in the future when maybe you get some more clarity? And also those people who are coming now who are not on the 45, but you anticipate will be on the 45, will they be appearing at Camden Yards in workouts, or will they just be kind of waiting for this secondary place to open up?
Yes. So second question first. I think there's not going to be like one wave and two waves. There will be some gradual additions, some of whom may be here this week. And, if the second site's not open up yet, or even if it is, I think some of them will be here, the workouts in Camden Yards, and then possibly go longer term to the second site. Other players may just go directly to the second site. So it's sort of a case by case. We are planning on starting some intra-squads this week, tomorrow actually. And, we may, if we have any additional bodies to add then, which I'm not sure that we will, we may weave some guys in over the next couple of days for that reason. And then regarding the injured list and the COVID injured list in particular, I really think there's going to be a lot that you're going to be able to infer based on roster moves. Anyone who's following the team or the league closely will be able to infer, and that's just is what it is. My understanding is that Major League Baseball is going to continue to be revealing the statistics of positive tests, and that information will continue to come out at regular intervals. But I and the organization, and I think everyone involved who's talked about this, just feel it's not the best way to handle it to immediately announce if someone's tested positive, and then the degree to which they're symptomatic and whether they're asymptomatic, and then 2 days later turns out it was a negative test. We're just going to take it a little more cautiously and slower than that, at least at first, as we ease our way into this. I mean, this is a unprecedented situation. The sport is making an effort to get going. It's a tough circumstance. It's a lot of challenges involved. I think we're doing a great job of it. I can't praise enough the prep work that our organization has done, ballpark operations, Greg Bader, Troy Scott, Brian Ebel, and Sean Curtin on the medical side. I mean, they've transformed Camden Yards. So far, our players have been complimentary and feel good. It's early. I understand that things may happen, but we feel that we've done everything we can do under unprecedented circumstances, and we like our chances to have a successful season. But there are going to be aspects of the way we handle this that may evolve.
Rich Dubroff, go ahead.
Mike, how confident are you that you'll be able to start the season July 24th?
I feel great about it. We're here. Our players are in remarkable physical shape, particularly the pitchers. I've got to compliment this group for keeping sharp. The velos have showed up. Some of them are kind of more in early spring training form. Others look like they're in mid-season, regular season form, but everyone is, kind of where they need to be or better. And we feel like we've got a good plan in place to execute this season. We're up against a unpredictable circumstance here with a virus that has been enigmatic since it arrived here. But we have a lot of good support from the league and our own organization. And after getting in here and seeing this, I was just kind of wowed by the setup here at Camden Yards and how clean and thorough and spacious everything is. So I feel better about it than before we started, but we'll just see what happens.
And Mike, I was wondering for some clarification, the 60 men, will they all be from within the Oriole organization today, or is there still an outside shot you could bring somebody in from outside the organization?
There's definitely avenues toward adding people from outside the organization. We could make traditional waiver claims. We could sign free agents. There's going to be some type of independently operated free agent pool set up. It's not up and running yet. We could trade. So there will be players entering and leaving the organization this year, as with any year. But because of the nature of the rules, certain types of players, guys that aren't on the 40-man roster, when they're in your pool, our reading of the rules is they can't leave that pool unless there's some type of like bona fide transaction made. So it makes us a little bit more cautious about bringing up some of our young prospects, so to speak, that aren't close to the major league radar screen, but that we'd love to have here for player development reasons.
Steve Molesky.
Mike, a quick question on the 60-man. Are you able to add to the 60-player pool after opening day? And secondly, did the organization, can you give some reasons why the organization chose to, as you had said, be more extensive and elaborate with its testing? Is that maybe why the Orioles haven't had some issues that other teams have had?
You can add to your 60-man beyond opening day. Like if we wanted to go into opening day with a 46 or 52-man roster, we could. That is allowable in the rules. But I think we'd like to get at 60 or close to 60 as soon as we feel safe and able to accommodate that number of players without stressing, the grounds crew and just the space in the clubhouse and the schedule and all that. And with some of these guys, there's not a lot of rush to get them here because realistically they're not competing for the opening day roster. So we're just going to wait until we have our second site ready to get everyone here. Look, we're with our testing, we're not cutting any corners, and Brian Ebel, who's heading up this effort, and his staff, have done everything to ensure that, if there's a player that there's even a suspicion that they were in contact with somebody who has this virus in their personal life or whatever, that we're going to take the extra time and the extra effort to look into that and, get whatever testing needs to be done to rule them out before we introduce them to this environment. So I would just say that as we have from the beginning, we're taking this as serious as any club, and we're going to continue to do so. And it's, going to be group health first and baseball second in a lot of circumstances this year. But, that's just the way it is.
David Laurilla, go ahead.
Hey, Mike. You mentioned player development a few minutes ago. I don't know, your org has obviously made great strides in pitching development. How do you anticipate the cancellation of the minor league season to impact that this year?
It's definitely a blow. You know, we wanted so many of our players and prospects to go out and have full seasons and have the lumps and ups and downs and good and bad that comes with a full minor league season, and have those statistics to look at, to evaluate them. And we're not getting that, but none of the other teams is getting that either. So that's some small consolation. We're going to try to get as many of our young prospects here as we can, but without hurting our ability to navigate this season the way we want to at the major league level. And ultimately, and I think the rest of the general managers across the league are really hopeful and really going to push for some type of player development, organized player development experience this year for the players, whatever that ends up looking like, so that we can get something out of this year for our young guys and the guys that we just drafted and our international players. But I do think a lot of that's going to be dependent on how well this goes up here at the major league level right now. So that's part of the reason that we're so motivated and so careful to do this right.
All right, last call for questions. John Mioli, go ahead.
Mike, I know Steve kind of asked, but are you guys testing people who are outside of Tier 1 and Tier 2, or doing additional tests to what the league is asking you guys to do, or is it just tracing type stuff?
Yeah, Trace, I mean, there are mandatory testing protocols if for anyone who's Tier 1, Tier 2. You can certainly test other members of your organization if you feel it's necessary, or especially if they, if they're experiencing symptoms or they believe they've been in contact with somebody who has. We've got, as a Major League Baseball team, we have, medical resources, and we'll make sure they get the medical attention that they get. But, other than that, I think it's just safe to characterize our approach as, we are checking off every possible box before we introduce somebody to this environment. We recognize that it's going to be impossible to totally head off any infections amongst our people, because they go out and live their lives even when they're not here, even though they're being very careful. But we just want to make sure that this environment where we've got our group together, we want to do our very, very best to make sure this doesn't become any type of transmission vector. And that's going to be the key to having a successful season if all the clubs can do that.
Joe Trezza, go ahead.
Hey, Mike, I just want to clarify on one thing just about the testing. I know you were calling it a private health matter earlier when you're talking about why you've chosen not to name names, if you will. I'm just curious though, because even the other teams that aren't naming individual players, a lot of them are saying whether or not there have been positive tests or not in the organization. I'm curious, is there a distinction there on your end, and what's the value in not doing that as well?
Yeah, no, it's a good point, and I think it's something we're still thinking about. And I just think we want to ease our way into this a little bit because of it's not sometimes it's not a binary outcome when there's an initial test, and someone might be back 2 days afterward. And for some, it might be weeks. And so I think we want to gather a little bit more experience with this before we even start citing numbers. But again, I know that the league as a whole will be publishing aggregate numbers, and I think we're going to continue to maybe look at a way of representing that ourselves.
Dan Connolly, go ahead.
Like I know you said, for the last week or so, kind of watching everything, you feel comfortable with your team being able to make it to July 24th. But watching the overall industry with guys opting out, with the numbers kind of escalating, with a lot of questions about this and about the testing and how the testing has been handled in some of the other organizations. Does that concern you for the overall industry being able to make this to July 23rd, 24th, given that there's already been a lot of hiccups so far?
I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing here. The stuff that we've read about, it is early. That I think that needs to be remembered, and I'm hopeful that things will smooth out across the league. This is a massive effort. I think that we've made a decision as an industry and almost as from a societal level that it is important to try to play baseball and play sports with everything that's going on. We think we can do it safely. We think this sport lends itself to playing it safely in these circumstances. We're trying to understand the best way to do this. I think that, it seems very possible and very plausible to me that we can have a successful season and, not have an outsized health situation on our hands as a result of this season. I like the way that we're approaching this, and I just hope that, everything smooths out across the league in time, and I think it will.